Hi, my name's Karen O'Connor and welcome to this episode of the Menopause, Marriage and Motherhood podcast. Thanks for tuning in. What it's about is when, like 4 or 5 years ago, when I was kind of a bit depressed and everything, it was difficult for me to find women that I could relate to, you know, who'd struggled going through the menopause and when the kids were leaving home and everything. So that's kind of the basic premise of the podcast, is to connect with those women who are feeling a bit lost and don't know what to do or where to go. So one of the things that I want to do, one of the main things that I want to do with the podcast is just to talk to women who've kind of picked themselves up and done something, you know, or even just everybody has a fabulous story to share, whether they realize it or not. And so, you know, there's quite a few of my friends that I've interviewed who've just gone through the most amazing things and come out the other side, and just to share it, to give people a bit of inspiration or a bit of relief from what they're feeling, or just a relative thing, you know, connection thing. So that's the whole purpose of it. So you were down on my list, so I went through all of my friends on Facebook and my phone book, and and you were on my list, and then you sent me that email about your podcast. I went, excellent.
Perfect timing. So good. And
how's your podcast going?
Good. Yeah. Like we just, I did loads of recordings last year, and then I just stalled it and installed on it. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to get it out. So it seems to be good so far. Like we just had it for like 1 week, and we had a few episodes out in the first week. So this is kind of the first week of it live. Like, and some people have messaged saying they loved it so far. And, you know, I think you're the same as well as me. Like we're total like extroverts, and we love being around people and talking and listening and sharing. And I think that's the one thing that I just love it. Like I love interviewing the people. I feel always invigorated after them. And it's kind of like I just get to talk to people I like and that inspire me. And I'm like, it's a total like feed my own soul thing as well. So it's been brilliant. And it's so interesting what you're saying, because like I feel like you know our like, well, in our Feng Shui community, it's a lot of women who are in that similar place who are a bit stuck. And then they're like, well, what can I do? What can I do to change things around? And they're like, well, I could do my house. I could do something with my house. And that's where another change. So I was like, yeah, that's actually perfect as well. And of course, I've loads of crazy stories of evolving into this as well. So all cool.
It is actually. I hadn't made that connection, but you're quite right. You know, when people want change, one of the things they can do is change their house. That's an easier one. Let's change the house around, make it feel better. And that's like a springboard to moving their life forward. I hadn't even considered that.
Exactly.
Do you know, I might take this first bit and just put it into the podcast, because everything's recording. So I'm here today with Patricia Lohan, who is an amazing person. Apart from being an amazing person, she's also an amazing Feng Shui expert as well. I can't tell you how good it is to talk to you. Like, it's been a couple of years since we connected.
It has been, and I'm so excited to chat to you.
So what happened was Patricia and I met up at a Denise Duffield Thomas event, didn't we? Do you remember?
That's right, in Australia, yes.
And then we connected because you did some Feng Shui work on your house, on my house, not your, well, you did it on yours, but on my house. So I want to do two things today, because the purpose of this podcast, the reason why I'm talking to you, is actually twofold. One is that I find the fact that you've moved from not so sunny Ireland to really sunny Bali. You've just shifted all the way around the world, halfway around the world. So I do want to talk to you about that and all of that kind of thing on a personal level. But I also want to talk to you, obviously, about the Feng Shui. So can you explain a bit about what Feng Shui is to start with, and then we'll take it from there?
Yes, of course. So Feng Shui is often known as the ancient art of placement, but I actually don't care where your furniture is. And I think you can testify to that as well, because 99% of the time, Feng Shui is actually about like acupuncture for your home. Your home is either attracting what you want or repelling it. And if it is repelling it, you will see it in lots and lots of ways in your life, in your bank account, in your health, in your relationships with your family. And the thing is, and what I feel like is like in the personal development world that so many of us are kind of in, and we're reading these books about improving ourselves and doing everything, it's kind of like, it's your own fault. It's your fault. This stuff is happening. You need to work harder. You need to do the mindset. You need to do this. And for me, and I'll share how I got into this, was that actually I'm saying to people, you know what? Like it could actually be your house. And 99% of the time, someone who finds me, I'm like, it is your house. Because your house, your life is like pushing you towards to say, there's a red flag going on here with the energy of your home. And we can work on it very easily to actually improve the flow of what it is you want to in your life. Now, this feels and sounds probably so far out for some people. And they're like, what? But honestly, it's just one of these things that works. You don't need to believe in it. And you may have heard lots of things about Feng Shui being like, keep the toilet seat down and, hang this weird frog in this corner of your house and do this. And to be honest, 99% of that is like not true. It's just like, that's what really drives me crazy. Most of the time when people come to me, they're very stuck in their lives. There's something going wrong. And they're like, I've tried everything. This is my last resort, or I'm going to do the Feng Shui, or they've had this kind of like, I've always felt like there's something off with this house since we moved in. This hasn't felt right. And they've done lots of things. And that's where they end up with me. And I'm like, okay, turn on the magic, get things flowing again for you. So that's like my simple way of explaining it. And, even if you had no furniture in your house could still be bad Feng Shui. Even if your house is interior designed and like the most magnificent mansion in the world, it could still be bad Feng Shui. And there's many, many, many different factors that kind of can create that Feng Shui that isn't positive. But to be honest, what I would say to you is, first of all, it goes with creating a positive relationship with your home.
That's really interesting what you say, because there's so many books like that. Because I remember looking into Feng Shui like 15 years, maybe more, probably more ago, and buying those little books that are available at the bookstore. And it says, oh, put a plant here and stick 6 coins there and don't have a mirror facing this way. And it just seemed like it was more interior design than anything else. That was how it landed for me. Yeah. But is it that, or is it something different?
You know what? I feel like it's almost like, how would I describe this? It's like I'm an energy healer for your home.
Okay.
And when we work with the energy of your home, it's going to that's going to create that's going to change the fundamental core energy shifts and improve the energy of your house. Whereas I'm not an interior designer, or for example, I'm like an energy healer for a person. If we're working with the energy of your person, we're working with the energy of your home. I'm not going to give you like fashion advice or like, hair color advice. That's what a hairdresser does, or what a fashion stylist does. So, but an energy works on the energy and makes you feel better from the inside out.
That makes so much sense. And one of the things I hate about the whole personal development market is it tends to come from a place of there's something wrong with you that you need to fix.
Yeah.
As opposed to you're already absolutely brilliant and you just need to get rid of stuff that's getting in the way of you experiencing that. And you were saying, when you talk to people about Feng Shui, quite often it's that the energy's not moving around and they're not experiencing great energy from everything. And it's easy to do that with the house, with changing things in the house.
I think that, yeah. Oh, so we were talking about like the different stages of like the... people who empty nesters, you're like kind of getting a bit stuck. Yeah. You're like, what am I going to do? What am I doing with my life? Like looking around. And I always think that like a lot of our community in our Feng Shui program would be from that place, because it's like women who have achieved a lot, done a lot. They're looking around going, I want to change something. And it's really easy. Like, start with your home, start
Yeah.
with changing the energy of your home. Like, that is going to be a beautiful start. And it's going to make you feel better. It's going to improve the energy of your house. It's going to make everybody who comes in feel happier and better. And you'll be amazed. And I've seen some miraculous shifts in women who literally kind of really moved into their more creative side, who started like dressing more feminine as a result of like bringing the balancing energy of their homes, kind of like rippled into this beautiful flow in their lives.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I can completely see it happening. I mean, I've seen women in your group who've done exactly that. Like, they seem different a few months later.
I know, they look different. They're doing different things. They're like so much more confident. It's just a totally different energy from them. Yeah. And to think that they could have been at home thinking that there was something wrong with them and they were blocking it. But actually, once they started working with the energy of their house, it's like mirrored, because when you start working with the energy of your house, it flicks back onto you as well. So it's like this symbiotic thing.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It just helps. It just makes you feel, I mean, without being woo-woo about it, it makes you feel better about yourself, because you're in an environment that you enjoy being in, as opposed to, like, for example, we were renovating a house years ago and we had to walk through a building site and storage of rubbish and all this stuff to get into the house. Yeah. And I remember after about 3 or 4 months of this, going mental at John and going, if you don't get that cleared, I'm going to do something about it. I will get a bobcat in and do it, because I cannot do this anymore, because it was really stressing me out, just having to walk from my car to the house through a mess.
Yeah.
And it really impacted me. And I didn't realize how much better I felt until after it had all gone. And it was like this massive weight had been lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah. And you were going through like an obstacle course to get into your house. It's like that is going to be creating so much like friction from the minute you get to your house. You just get there and you're like, you can't get in. It's not a sense of flow and ease. And obviously also, if you're coming in that back end, like the actual energy getting to your house was really hard. So it was probably hard, like even being there, because energy couldn't get in easily. It was like blocking it. So you just weren't being like supported by your house, because energy couldn't get in. It was like your house was starving.
It was. It absolutely was. It was a really interesting experience for me, because that was one of the first times I really went, I mean, I've always known when a house isn't right for me as soon as I walk in. And I think we all do. When we go in looking at houses, we get a general vibe about the house. Is this a nice house or not? And you see it if you watch any of those programs on TV where people walk in and go, oh, it's not the house for me.
And a big question that I often ask clients, and when I've looked at houses myself, I'm like, who lived here before and why are they moving? That can be a really big indicator. Like the nice thing about Feng Shui is that we can work with whatever you have. Like, so no matter what's going on, there's always something that you can do to balance it, to remedy it. Like, I've never told anyone they need to move house, but it is an indicator. I'm actually just was chatting to my sister, and she was saying that her friend is going through a divorce, and she was saying to me, oh, you know what? I was just chatting to her, and she was saying that the people who lived in this house before had a divorce, and that energy stays there. And for me as a Feng Shui consultant, I'm not going to ever say, oh, don't move in there, but I'm like, oh my God, we definitely need to get some energy in there supporting like relationships, because there's obviously something not supportive of relationships in that house.
So can you give me a few examples of, when people have changed their house, what's happened?
The first one comes to mind is Miriam. Miriam, she wasn't at the event, that event. It was at a different event, similarly in Australia. And she actually came to me because her kids weren't coming back to spend time in her house. So she was a bit like, God, I really want like more family time, but the kids are not staying here. They just don't feel called to be here. They were over at her ex-husband's. So we worked on the energy of her home. She actually teaches manifesting. So she's all into like energy and alignment, and kind of twig, God, I have everything else in alignment except my house. So we did the work, we put in the remedies, got it all balanced, and obviously all good on the family front. The kids started getting on better and everything, but her business doubled the first month and trebled the second month.
Wow.
So like without even intentionally like setting out to improve her business, it happened. So for me, this is the nice thing. And what I love about Feng Shui is the fact that it's all encompassing. It's like oftentimes it's women who come to me who want to balance, who want to shift their lives. They want to see more flow of money, like they want to better in their relationships or their families, or, you know, for entrepreneurial women who work from home, who want like more media exposure. Like I have Tanya, who every time she put a Feng Shui remedy in last year, she ended up on TV. So she had 14 TV appearances. And her husband was just like, oh my God, I cannot like make this stuff up, you know, like, and that's where the fun also begins with it, because it's not just you who benefits, it's everybody. So when I say it to people who kind of come on this journey of Feng Shui, I'm like, this is an investment in you and your family and your children and your career and everything, because it's going to ripple effect into everything. So for example, like Talmar came, she wanted more visibility in her business. So she has a great business and she wanted more visibility. So the very first thing that happened, we worked on her career area. So we work on all areas. We're doing her career area. The next day, her son won a scholarship worth $70,000. So his career, or his you know, education got a huge burst the minute we worked on her area. Now it just went to the complete extreme with Talmar, because she literally got featured on a TV show for a rebrand for her business. So she was on a TV show like for like 8 episodes, with her entire business being like featured and being made visible and rebranded. I was like, I can't make this stuff up. Like it is, for me, that's the fun thing. It's like the stories and the success is so like beyond my wildest dreams, which I absolutely adore.
So how did you get into it? Because you're an Irish girl. How did Irish girl?
I know. So an Irish girl who was like 15, I got my first books about Feng Shui when I was 15. Now, I just have to also say this, like my parents are not into this kind of thing. Like obviously I have their house Feng Shui'd. So I go home to Ireland every year. I have it all Feng Shui'd, and mom checks on a few things, you know. I'm like, oh, have you done this? Did you do that? You know, but really, I have no idea. We moved house 22 times growing up. So I know that I always had this connection with home. And at that age, it was the first time I was going to be allowed to kind of fully have my own bedroom. And I was so excited. So I was able to redecorate it. And I asked for books about Feng Shui for Christmas. So that was my first foray into it. And I really just got kind of hooked into it. I was like reading it and studying it. And a bit like most people, I got to this phase where I was like, this is getting too complicated. There's like numbers and years and all this stuff and compasses. And that's where it kind of got like, this is too confusing. So I just did the basic things I could around my house. And about like 3 years later, I actually made my parents, like, remember when the internet went like beep and you had to like listen to the tag thing? I found a woman in Ireland who was doing Feng Shui, and I got her to come. Like my parents, like honestly, they're just the most amazing people and open-minded. But she came down and looked at their business, and she was supposed to give, when I think back, I really want to get a refund from her all these years later, because I have no idea what she told us, but it was just totally like a bit like what I was saying, that other stuff that everyone hears out there, the Feng Shui is. But I made them hire a Feng Shui consultant. This is how like passionate I was about this subject, unknowing to me. So obviously I've either done it in a past life or something. But in my late 20s, I had actually worked for my family for many years. I ran a business with them, with my dad, for many years. And I left that like basically completely burned out, exhausted, like this, not following my soul's path, and skipped off to India and became like a yoga teacher and did all this spiritual stuff. And I eventually moved back to Dublin with 50 euros, started my business in like holistic practice with yoga and sound healing and all of this. And I was like sleeping in a little single room in my friend's house because I couldn't afford rent, cycling on my other friend's bicycle because I couldn't afford any transport. And basically, like, eventually my business started to take off and started making a bit of money. And I finally was able to like manifest an apartment to live in. And when I moved into this apartment, I'll never forget, I turned around to my new flatmate. I said, I'm not leaving here until I am moving in with my future husband to our home house. And she roared laughing. I can just see her throwing her head back, blonde head, roaring, laughing at me. And I was like, I am deadly serious. So that was the first thing I did was like, this was my apartment. I'm setting this place up for love. This guy is coming in. That's it. So I set it all up for love. I did my bedroom and I did all the kind of like surface stuff that I knew and I researched. And very soon afterwards, I actually met my husband, Ken. Now, it does get a bit better and a bit crazier because when I got to Ken's house after a while of dating, we go for walks in the countryside and he's like, oh, come for tea to my house. And he's built this beautiful house in the countryside. And I'm walking around and I'm like, he has feng shuied this place. He's feng shuied this. And the bedroom was all set up for love. And I was like, he's feng shuied this. And I was like, have you feng shuied this? And he's like, no. He did. So he had also been into feng shui in his 20s. And had done some of the things. So we both had this like underlying interest in feng shui, and that kind of brought us together. And all of a sudden, people started asking me, how did you meet Ken? And I was like, I met him, like I did this. And obviously like, so that was kind of the start of people questioning me about this process. But it all started getting a bit more crazier because at that time I had my own holistic practice. Like I wasn't looking for like a new career. I was very happy. I did sound healing. I trained people in sound healing and I did one-to-one therapy with clients, clearing their inner beliefs and blocks. Now, I've always like, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And some feng shui masters came to Ireland and I was like on it. I was at their workshops. I was learning more. I was like, oh my God, I love this. Just drinking it up for my own personal like fascination. But I would be with my clients, like doing my kinesiology or my body talk and going like, what, there's something coming up about your bedroom. Well, how long have you lived in your house? What's happening here? And they looked at me like I had 10 heads. They're like, what are you talking about? I thought you were talking about this trauma when I was 8. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like there's something going on with your house. And that's where it really like sank in with me. I was like, we're doing all this amazing inner work with these clients. They were flying it, like going out the door. Yet they would walk into a house that was like bad for people or bad for money or was like full of clutter and it was like blocking them. So that's how this all kind of combined for me, because then my clients started like my one-to-one clients started becoming my feng shui clients. And it was just kind of rolled from that point. So I just did feng shui on the side in Ireland for my own clients. But we discovered that, I kind of quickly said I moved to India and, scooted off over that for a bit. But I really wanted to have a business that I could travel and live in different countries and travel more and have freedom. And of course I ended up building a business where everyone came to me in person. I went to people's houses. I sold like singing bowls, like everything was like a kind of bricks and mortar business. And it wasn't I was like, something needs to change. I want to travel. I want to do stuff online. So myself and Ken got married and then we were talking about our honeymoon. And we're like, let's go to India. Let's go to Bali. Let's go. So we headed off to Bali. I quit my practice. I quit everything. I'm like, I'm going to do something online. And I had no idea what it was going to be. Like, no idea. I never even thought that we would end up having like hundreds of people doing feng shui with us every year, like transforming their lives. Like, no idea at all. But that's how it unfolded when we got to Bali.
So why? Okay, two things. What made you go to India in the first place and what made you move to Bali?
So my mom actually fired me. So I had run this business with my dad and my mum was kind of in the sidelines for many years. And they went to visit my sister who lives in Australia. And I was then like looking after everything. And it was very stressful. I was like, when I first started, I was like 23 with like 30 staff or something. Like it was nuts. And that like kind of kept going full steam ahead for 7 years. So mom and dad headed to Australia. They came back and everyone was saying to mom, like, oh my God, you must be so sad. Like Nicola's over in Australia. You must be so lonely without her. Like blah, blah, blah. And mom was like, no, she's so happy. And like, as a mom, Karen, you just want your children to be happy. Like, and mom's like, no, she's so happy. Why would I be sad? Like, it's great. She's so happy. Like, obviously it's sad that she's far away, but I'm happy she's happy. And she literally, as she was having that exact conversation, she looked up, because we had a bar and restaurant and off license. She looked up, and in the restaurant, she looked up and she saw me. And our eyes kind of crossed, and like the penny dropped for her. And she was like, my daughter in Australia is so happy, but my daughter standing in front of me is literally dying on the inside. Like, this business is killing her. So a day or two later, we were upstairs, and she says, I think you need to leave. I think you need to leave Lohan's. And I was like, yes. And no, I swear to God, popped out of my mouth, I'm going to India to become a yoga teacher. I had honestly never considered this. It was like not a planned out, plotted path. And just in context of like my yoga experience was one class of yoga every Wednesday a week. And I'd been on a 1 week retreat. So let's just say I was no yogi or like passionate yogini to head to India, but it's what popped out and it's what I did. And I just went with it. And that's how I ended up in India, because basically my mouth said it.
Your brain had nothing to do with it.
My brain had nothing to do with it. And I actually went to India for a month and ended up there for nearly a year and a half, or like for so long. And I had this huge like spiritual awakening and the most powerful, just stepping into a flow of the unknown, because I never knew what was going to happen the next day. I never knew where I was going. And weird things popped out of my mouth at different times. Like, I'm going to Nepal I'm going to Nepal. And everyone was like, I thought you were going traveling the world. And I'm like, no, I'm going to Nepal now. And it was like literally these little things that kind of kept happening. And I ended up going to Nepal, training in sound healing, sending fruit bowls back to my mom, because my mom was like, what are you going to do with these fruit bowls? And I'm like, no, they're for sound healing. So it all just, so that's how India came. I think was that the first question? And I can't remember the second one.
How old were you then?
So I was 28. It was just around 28, 29. Yeah.
And the other thing that I didn't say at the beginning is you, in your Facebook profile, you actually have a middle name, Parashakti, don't you? Obviously,
do.
That's where it came from, because I did wonder.
Yes.
So where does it come from?
So Parashakti comes from when I was in the ashram in India. And it's so funny because when I put it on my name, loads of people I messaged my mom going, has Patricia got married to an Indian? Oh my God. I didn't marry an Indian, no. So Parashakti was the name given by the guru at the ashram to me. And I honestly feel like I put that name on my profile all those years ago. And I feel like it's what's been the guiding light in my journey, because Para means all and Shakti means divine feminine power. And I think, despite, teaching Feng Shui, for me, Feng Shui is disguised as empowering women to step into their true lives and allow their homes to support them, create the vision for what they want. So that's really how it's all unfolded. Like, I just really have ended up helping women get into their own energy and step into their power. But it was kind of funny because when I got that name and he gave me the definition, like, divine, feminine, wisdom, knowledge, and action, power, I was a bit like intimidated, to say the least. I was like, oh my God. And when my friend got Zita, lover of Krishna, or something like that, and it was like, she's like, I'm the lover of Krishna and you are Parashakti. That's how I got that name.
So, because I was you said earlier on that most of your clients are women. Do you think this, and I was going to say, why are most of your clients women? But it's kind of, that's coming together to me now, because you got that name, and is it because of all this? What are your thoughts?
I think it is because of this. I do feel like it's very connected to that. And, it's weird. Like, I think Feng Shui just doesn't really appeal to men. It's almost like we have had like a couple of guys in our program. But what is so fun is how the guys become the biggest fans of Feng Shui. So like, I had a voicemail last week from a girl who was like, she just was like, I wake up to these things. Patricia, I just want to message you to say thank you for changing my entire life and transforming it. I'm so grateful. I'm eternally grateful. Like, I was scared about getting the mortgage when I bought this house. All got sorted. I put in my remedies. My new partner just turned up in my life. He's just got a brand new job. I've just been offered a job. We got engaged. I'm expecting a baby. I was just like, oh my God. Like, I hadn't heard from the girl in months. And this is like, I was like, wow, amazing, amazing, amazing. And then she says, like, which is the icing on the top of the cake for me. She's just like, and my partner is like so passionate about the feng shui, and he's making sure that everything is looked after, and he's just like totally on it because he's benefited so much. He can feel it. And that's where it is, because he was kind of very stuck in his old job, and now he's getting this new job and he's been released from his old one and all this good stuff. And I was like, that's it. It's like the ripple effect again. The partner is on it then when they feel the benefits.
So why do you think it appeals to women more?
I don't know. Maybe it's that nurturing part of us. It's that nurturer part of us that we that women have been traditionally like the house, the nurturers, the carers, looking after the home. And also, feng shui is energy work. Like, women are so much more intuitive.
I was actually going to say that, and I thought, yeah, for the most part, absolutely. We're much more in tune with energy than most guys are, which is a vast generalization, but
and you know what? Yeah, I feel like men are getting better at it, but we're just naturally tuned in and more tapped in.
Yeah, I think so. And now I'm having a menopause moment, and I've forgotten what I was going to say.
It's okay.
Oh, this happens so much. It's shocking. So let's go back to what you were saying earlier. So when you moved, why did you move to Bali? That was the second question. Why did you move to Bali?
So we went to India because we both had been to India individually and we'd never been there together. So we're like, let's go to India. We both love it. Let's do that. Exciting. And we got to India and it just was not a good fit for both of us there together. Things didn't flow easily. But what did happen was we met this French guy, and every day he would be like, Bali, Ubud, Bali, Bali, Bali. He just basically kept talking about it. And I had a friend who lived in the Gili Islands, and he was actually the person who told me about the ashram in India that I ended up going to. And he was my first yoga teacher. So I feel like he has always kind of dropped the little like nuggets for me to end up like going there. So he was living in Gili Tea at the time, which is a beautiful island just off Bali. And I said, he said, come visit on your honeymoon. So we're like, okay. I was like, well, that's perfect. I'm going to come. So we went to visit him. And before that, he messaged me and he's like, you are going to need at least a month in Ubud, Patricia. Like, you're going to need at least a month. And I was like, okay. Forewarned. We arrived in Bali. Both Ken and I were in the car because we'd had like a weird... India was just weird for us both. It was just Goa. I have no idea. But we both landed and I was in the car on one side, in the taxi looking out going, this feels really good. And Ken was saying the exact same thing to himself. And we were both like afraid kind of to jinx it because this is really nice. And we found a lovely accommodation. We found a house the next day. And I'm Irish. Having a swimming pool means that you have made it. Like, literally, you've made it. So we went to this house and it had this amazing swimming pool, jungle view. And this lovely guy showed us it. And I was like, yeah, I want to take it. Yeah, I want to take it. And both Ken and I were both, yeah, we want it. And the guy goes, minimum 6 months. And we both just said simultaneously, without even talking to each other, yes, okay. That was it. Like, so that's how we ended up here. And that was like over 4 years ago.
So you're still in Ubud? Are you still in that same house?
No, we have tried lots of houses here. Ultimately, our vision is to build our own feng shui home here. And that's been also a really interesting journey, like living in different houses and, feng shuiing them, learning from them, the environment, what we like, what we don't like. So we're not in the same house and we've tried several different ones here.
And why were you, that sounds really bad. So you spent most of last year traveling into the US and back to Ireland, did you?
I had like this huge calling to New York the last few years, and we would love to be like closer to Ireland if possible. So that is one of the places that we would consider, like, you know, having a place, or kind of not necessarily relocating to, but being for a part of the year. So we went there to try it out. So like, I think that also one of the big things for me is like, you know, creating and designing the life that we want, even if it sounds weird to everybody else. Like, we love skiing. So at the start of last year, we spent in Slovenia. We spent 2 to 3 months there, and we went skiing. We absolutely loved it. So we did. So we were there, and then we went to New York. And then I was back in Bali because I ran a retreat here. So, and then we were like, let's go to New York and suss it out and figure out if this is a place that we'd really love to be. And we did go to New York, and we were like, well, we'll never live in Manhattan. Like, we lived right in the middle of Soho. You know, it's like, you know, experiencing things that you'd like never get a chance to do. But I had a friend who goes to Europe for the summer. She's a gorgeous apartment in Soho. I met her on an airplane flying from like New York to Texas, like a couple of years ago. And it was just like perfect timing. I messaged her. I said, oh, I'm coming to New York for the summer. She's like, oh, my place is available. Like, okay, let's take it. So that's how we ended up there. And then we ended up back in Ireland and redecorated our own house, refurbed it, and have that up on Airbnb. So it's kind of going to give us this flexibility that when we want to go to Ireland, we can be in our lovely house there rather than having it out long term. So yeah, we're kind of like figuring out the places that we'd like to spend more time in, as opposed to just Bali.
That was actually where I was going with that question about spending last year in the States and Ireland, because where I was going with it is you really created you live your life like, I want to do this, and so this is what I'm going to try. And so it's not just that you've moved to Bali and you've stayed in Bali, it's that you've moved to Bali and you're experiencing that, but there's heaps of other things you want to do as well. And that's something that I really admire, because I hate the term, oh, this is my forever home, because that's just not something I can do. Like, I hate it for me. I get that lots of other people want to do it, but I'm like, oh, no, I want to experience things.
I know, exactly. And the weird thing about us is that we love like traveling, but also what we've learned, and I think this is the other part, is like you have to go experience it to learn it. Like, I did think, oh my God, I would like love to live in Manhattan, like smack bang in the middle of Manhattan, like, yes. And we did. And I was like, never again. Like, never again. I want to be out in Long Island where there's a beautiful beach, where I can have loads of nature, and I can get on a train 1 hour and be in Manhattan and have that there. Like that, like, and it was so interesting because if I hadn't done it, I wouldn't have known. And the same goes for us being in Greece. We were in Greece. We were like, oh my God, we love it here. Slovenia, we lived there for 3 months, and I was like, never again. My husband would like move there tomorrow. He loved it so much. We ended up going back there again. Like, yeah, it was so fun because he's just like, I love it. Let's go back. And I'm like, no, like for like a weekend, okay. But you know, that's the thing, is like trying it, testing it, and then like creating it for what you want, because ultimately it's like having a home in each place will be our ideal scenario. Because of the coming and going, it was very ungrounding for us and for our business last year, and we just learned a lot about ourselves in that changing and in that transitioning from different apartments. Like in Manhattan, you know, we lived in like an apartment, I don't know, it was definitely like a multi-million-dollar apartment, but it was a studio. Like, it had a Murphy bed. It was beautifully, exquisitely designed. And like, I was like downstairs to Karl Lagerfeld and who else was on our street? Like, it was all these like famous designer stores, like Chanel around the corner. And I'm like, this is amazing. I thought that this is exactly what I would love, but it's like not at all.
And how do you think the Feng Shui, you know, doing all the Feng Shui and everything, because obviously you've gone from living in Ireland, you had a brief stint in India with Ken, and then went, nah, this isn't it. Went to Bali and went, okay, this is where we put down our roots, but without a permanence to it, almost. It's kind of like you feel safe enough energetically to go, all right, this is the base, and then we'll go there and come back, and then we'll go there and come back. Is that how it is? And how does the Feng Shui help?
This is so interesting because we definitely learned a lot from that. And that was really one of the main reasons why we created like our base in Ireland and have that all feng shui. So we know when we walk in there, we're going to be like supported and like, yes. And here in Bali, like we have sourced some land and we've like plans for a new house to build. And that would be like our base, because that sense of ungrounded and moving to different places and different energies is exhausting. But the feng shui really does help, because it's like almost like you get this kind of, your house gives you a hug and you know that it's supportive. Whereas like in some houses, if you're just there temporarily, like, you know, if we were in apartments for like a month or two, I still feng shuied them, but it takes time for the energy to settle and stay and be like more constant. So it was just interesting for us to feel those different dynamics. And ultimately it'll be to have like a proper base here that will just be like, like we know where we're going. My clothes will be hanging in the wardrobe. Like that's the plan.
So your business, you've managed to set up a really successful business online, haven't you?
Yes. Which is amazing. And like it blows my mind every day when I think of it, because like honestly came to Bali and I was like, okay, I'm going to do, so I'd done some kind of online stuff before. People had been asking me about how I met Ken, and I had like a kind of like a soulmate program. But ultimately for me, it's like, it starts at home, like get your house sorted. And then if there is still things not flowing, you know, then you need to look at something on the interior for yourself. There's something going on that you're blocking it, like yourself, you know. So when I started with the feng shui, we just did a beginner's course. We had 6 people join it. It was just like the most exciting thing. But what I figured from this like basic beginners program was they needed more, you know. So the houses are either like good for people or bad for people, good for money or bad for people. But I need more information. So we ended up kind of doing it quite manually. People would like email me their floor plans, email me their photos. We would look at their houses on Google Maps and figure it all out, and then create their personal report and drip feed it. Now, one of the things that kind of, I don't know, that I ended up, why I didn't do as much feng shui in Ireland as I would have liked, I suppose, or it just didn't unfold that way, was because clients would hire me. I would go to their house. I'd be like, this is what you have to do, da, 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 da. And they would do a few things. You know, they would like do this and this, and they would then be like, oh, they wouldn't get the amazing results that I've talked about earlier, because, you know, action means, you know, to get results, you have to implement. And they would kind of like, I don't know what it was, because I would give them so much information in one go. It was just the essence and the nature of doing consultations that way. And when we started doing it online, it was phenomenal, because we had this community of other people doing it. You know, someone's like left on their own with their report, like, what do I do? How do I put it in? What's my, you know, so they have this support. Everyone was doing it together. We had group calls, implementing it, and that's how we still do it. And you've got these cheerleaders supporting you, and people who have done it ahead of you, people who are at the same place, people who are behind, and we all kind of, you know, keep going. And that's where it just built so much momentum, because the more implementation people did, the better results they got. The easier it was for me to like promote feng shui, because I was like, oh my God, like this happened and then this happened. And, you know, this person's having a baby. This person's just landed like 10 new clients. Like this person, you know, that it's like, and those women became like the biggest cheerleaders for it as well. So that's how it kind of unfolded. Like it kind of took on a life of its own.
That's really fascinating, because you did it so quickly as well.
You know, I'm a very impatient person, so it doesn't feel like that. It's like, I want to be like 10 million steps ahead. And my husband, Ken, is just like, oh my God, slow down, Patricia. Like, you know, in the last few years, you know, we've built that business. I've written a book. I've been on TV. I've like done, like started a podcast, like all the things. And, you know, I just wanted it all done like last year. Was not quick enough. So I'm learning the patience thing slowly but surely. But yeah, a lot has happened in this time, and the momentum has been phenomenal. And yeah, it really has its own kind of life now, because built special software. Like we really dived into like, how can we make this the easiest way to do it? I think that's one of the things that, you know, people are a bit scared that I'm going to tell them to move house or knock their walls or do something like crazy. And I'm like, no. We'll just use what you've got. We're going to bring some elements in like fire or metal, earth, you know, exactly what an acupuncturist would use, or, you know, and get the energy running fluidly around your house. And let's bring in all the good stuff.
So tell me more about the software that you've got. What does that do?
So we used to do everything manually and people would like email everything in. So now we built this questionnaire. So people submit all their information. And it's just really easy for us to do the analysis of people's homes. So it's like, you know, some people, like people, when I go to someone's like house just to visit, they think I'm going to be able to like feng shui it without like doing it. I'm like, no, I need to know when it was built. I need to know like the floor plans. I need to, you know, just from me standing here physically, I can look at some aesthetic things, just like as an interior, like, you know, from a aesthetic, like, oh, that you'd be better putting this here or that, you know, these tweaks. For example, I went to a friend's house in New York. We visited their apartment and she specifically said, oh my God, I put his desk here because, you know, it's good feng shui. And because she said that, like I would never give like consult, like kind of really advice unless I'm kind of invited. But I felt like, and I was like, would you like a little piece of advice, like just on that positioning of the desk? And she was like, yes. And I was like, well, just move it this way with his back like this and sit like this. And she was like, okay. And like the next day, she messaged me. That was like on a weekend. And she messaged me the following week. And she's like, oh my God, we've just had our biggest week of sales ever since we moved the desk. I was like, yeah, yes, I could see that because he was like pushing things away the way it was situated. I was like, you're pushing things away. And I was like, move it so you can call things in. But I don't know, I was saying, yeah, so that's where the software ended up coming because we need all this information. We need some information from our clients before we can give the recommendations that are exact for them. So it's not like a cookie cutter like approach for not every house is completely unique, which is also some things that people don't know about feng shui. Is it's like your house is completely unique. It doesn't matter, like, you know, you can read this thing out of a book in that area, but it may not be there. It's the shape of your house. All this, there's so many contributing factors to it. So the software we built just basically helps us bring all of that information together to do our analysis a lot quicker and more efficiently for our clients.
You know, the different energies the house has and you've got to go away and work it out. Do people's own personalities come into it? Because some people like a house and some people won't. How does that work?
Oh, that's a great question. So we have our own personal kind of like feng shui as well, based on our year of birth. And not that a house, you won't like it, but for example, if the shape of the house was a specific shape, it could be missing, like the eldest daughter area could be missing, which would then make it very difficult for the eldest daughter to really flourish in that house. So we will work on like giving remedies of like how to balance that and all of that. But yeah, so that could be one factor, and the other will be your own personal energy. So you could be for example, if you had a fire element house and you were wood element, it may deplete you. You may feel more depleted than someone else in the house. But at the same time, we don't really go too much into that because I'm like, once the energies are harmonized, it's going to be pretty supportive ultimately. There's just many layers.
I could go down the path of eldest daughter place and eldest son, and I'm just not going to because we'll be here for the next hour.
I know. And that's why I have like an 8-week program, because I'm like, there's so much information.
Well, that was where I was going to go next, because I know in the groups that you've got on Facebook, you're really, really active in there and you give out so much information. So if people want to find out more, I mean, obviously I'll put up links on the webpage and everything, but you do have Facebook groups, and where is the best place to find you and what do you offer? What's your starting point and where do you go from there?
Yeah, so the starting point is to come to patricialohan.com, and that's where I have like loads of video tips about feng shui to get started, my book, and also my free group, access to that, where I have a free group where I give like tips and insights and share different things. And I also have a class that you can get started with, like where to get started with feng shui on my website. So that's kind of the best place to get started. Just go there. And once you get there, you'll get access to my weekly podcast. Every Friday, I release a podcast about feng shui. So I have my interview guests each week, but I also do a specific feng shui one for people to get some tips and insights and get their questions answered as well. So come to patricialohan.com, sign up for my class that I have running right now for how to unlock the hidden energy of your home. And then you'll be able to be tapped into all the other exciting things that are going on in my world.
And they are exciting. I'm a big fan, I've got to say.
Oh, thank you.
I think we've been going for about 50 minutes now.
Oh my God. Do you remember? I just remember vividly the first time we met and we just couldn't stop talking. We were like,
oh my goodness. And then we were dancing on the dance floor and singing at the tops of our voices.
So fun.
It was great. So I think, is there anything else that I've asked you that you'd like to communicate at the moment?
No, I am just so grateful for this opportunity. I hope this is of benefit for people. I hope it just gave you a nudge in the right direction to take some action around your house or in your life, and know that it's never too late to start something new. And my motto is it all starts at home. Get started there. It's easy.
I was just going to say that. I think that point you made right at the start about, if you want to make changes in your life, this is actually the easiest way to do it. And I'd never thought of that before. That's absolutely brilliant. Start with the small things rather than going, oh, there's something wrong with me. Start with the small things and change things in your environment that you're able to change quite easily, but which will make a massive difference to you in the way you're feeling about yourself and the energy you get, and just giving you more life force. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Totally. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I was just like, wow, that's such a good idea. Yes, I get it now. So good. All right, thank you so much. It's been such good fun as always, and we could definitely carry on talking for about another hour.
I know.
The two of us.
Everyone will be like, shut up, guys. I've got to go.
Yeah. It's been such good fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Menopause, Marriage and Motherhood podcast. Don't forget that all the links and information that we've spoken about in this podcast is available on the podcast page of my website. Thanks so much for listening. I'm looking forward to talking to you again next time. Bye for now.